the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. My God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. He hung up on that cross and He rose up from the grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. My God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. And we were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. And we were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. 'Cause there's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. My God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. My God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise.
Good morning, Auntie. Now it's time for us to honor God by giving Him an offering. We so appreciate how you have been faithful to continue giving this summer. Your giving matters to the ministry, and we do our very best to use every dollar given to God's glory. Did you know that what you give can help build programs in RT Youth and RT Kids?
Yay, we love RT Kids!
Here at Revival Tab, we don't just give to the church, we give through the church. There are 3 ways to give. First, you can text to give. Simply text your dollar amount to 84321. Second, you can visit revivaltab.org and click on the giving on the online giving tile. Lastly, you can mail your offering to 16455 Woodward Ave, Highland Park, MI 48203. Thank you so much for your generosity.
What would be the weirdest superpowers you can think of?
Probably invisibility.
Probably being able to shoot like juice out of your fingers or eyeballs.
Shape-shifting.
Every time I think of, I teleport.
I guess being able to turn your skin inside.
Growing extra limbs.
I think the weirdest superpower is invincibility. Because like you could be anywhere at any time and nobody can see you, but you can see them, what they're doing. So
I would probably say mind reading. I think it's like very invasive and it's like creepy, but yeah.
What is the superhero you like the most and why do you like them?
Iron Man because he's funny.
I'd probably have to say like Shang-Chi probably. Yeah, this is like it's those rings, you know. It's like they're so versatile. It's like amazing to me. but yeah. So I mean, yeah, he's probably one of my favorites here.
Batman because he's rich.
I like Spider-Man because he's honest with the things that he says, even when he's not fighting crime.
but Catwoman, because I just like Catwoman.
I would probably say the same.
The superhero I like the most is Black Panther. And I like him because his sisters mainly.
Favorite superhero is probably going to be a Batman.
And then what is a real life superhero of yours and why? And why do you see them that way?
My mom, because she takes care of us and she helps us do a lot of things.
One is my dad, because I just look up to him. And another is my best friend, Lily. She, whenever I was like really stressed out or something, most of the time
My mom, because she's funny.
Well, I guess I have to say my dad, probably, because I guess like, anyway, he's my dad, so like, yeah, it's also just how well he's raised us overall all these years, and just like, how, he's all about his theology, he's all about being a family man, trying to handle his financials, and he just does the best he can. I mean that, and then also he's gone through a lot, because I mean, it's like, it was at one point that he caught COVID, and it was like, something that they really just had to take in for a second. So like, it's like both my mom and my dad got COVID, and somehow both of them survived in their 50s. It's like, just the fact that he's done a lot of things, seen a lot of things, been through a lot of things. I just have to give props to him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My mama, she raised a lot of kids and she did really good.
My dad, because he helps people when they're a little too deep into their addictions or just not doing the things that God wants them to do with their life.
What kind of superhero do you want to be when you grow up?
When I grow up, I want to be a superhero that changes the world in all good ways and one that can impact lives.
that's like there.
There.
Yeah, and I guess more of a like just helper.
Someone who helps people up.
person like my dad to help people who need it most.
I want to be a kind person. I already am, but like, I just want to keep that as a quality. So I want to be loyal to people, so.
I mean, brave, articulate, and I mean, just I guess it's like physically just in good shape because walking with the Lord and more. So yeah,
Grow up.
I want to be the kind of superhero that helps people even though I don't get anything in return.
In a world full of desolation, heartbreak, climate change, and weird food flavors that are sure to indicate the end times, like cappuccino chips, fruit punch Oreos, mayo chup, and yes, even the dastardly avocado ice cream. Two heroes rise from the ashes as a glimmer of hope in the midst of darkness, claiming to empower YK and Revival Tab to be the superheroes they need to be in these dark times. Please help me in welcoming these two beacons of light, these caped crusaders, these heroes that definitely don't resemble any other heroes that you may or may not have seen on TV or movies before. Introducing D'Angelo Lemons, aka the Daring D, and Pastor Max, aka Maximus Prime. Tune in as they teach you how to unlock the superpowers inside of you and together become even better than whatever those Marvel dudes call themselves.
What's up, RT? I'm D'Angelo, and I'm super excited to be here. I just graduated high school, and I'm really pumped to be here speaking in front of you for YK SNDY. I want to give a special thanks to Pastor Devin for the opportunity to be in front of you today. Today, we'll be diving in together all about superheroes. What are some of your favorite superheroes? Put them down in the comments. As much as we all would love to have a superpower, today's sermon is titled Everyday Superheroes because according to the Bible, we all are superheroes in some way. I'm talking about the gifts and talents that God has given each and every one of us to be a superhero in His kingdom. Have any of you ever done something and thought you had a superpower, especially maybe when you were younger? Well, I know I have. I remember when I was younger, around 5 or 6, me and my cousin David dressed up as Superman and Batman, and we were all jumping off the bed, having a blast until I fell, hitting my knee on the floor, and that was the moment I realized that I didn't have the superpowers to fly. I fully believe that I could fly off of that bed, but even though I can't fly, today we're going to be talking about the fact that the Bible apparently says we do have superpowers. Let's look and open our Bibles with me to 1 Corinthians 12. Paul is talking about the gifts that God gives. Starting in verse 4, it says in the Message version, God's various gifts are handed out everywhere, but they all originate in God's Spirit. God's various ministries are carried out everywhere, but they all originate in God's Spirit. God's various expressions of power are in action everywhere, but God Himself is behind it all. Each person is given something to do that show who God is. Each person gets in on it. Everyone gets in on it. Everyone benefits. All kinds of things are handed out by the Spirit and to all kinds of people. The variety is wonderful. Paul is talking to us, to the church in Corinth, but he's also talking to all of us. These gifts, they are God's versions of powers given to us. We are supposed to be everyday superheroes. Yes, even you. So Pastor Max and I wanted to share with you 3 things you need to be in order to be an everyday superhero. Number 1, to be an everyday superhero, you need to realize that you already have a superpower inside of you. God wants you to use the gifts and talents he has given you. So just like it says in 1 Corinthians 12 verse 7 says that each person is given something to do that shows who God is, and that everyone gets in on it and benefits from it. This verse is telling you that we all have gifts, have a gift from God, and we all benefit from it. There is no one left out of that. So if you ever feel like you have no gift or talent, or you don't know what they are, just know that you do. He says it in his word. Just ask him to reveal it to you, and he will. Just like me, when I was born, I almost died when my mom was having me. I lost oxygen to my brain, and the doctor said I wouldn't be able to walk or talk. It basically said that I had cerebral palsy. So, from the oxygen loss in my brain, I had to go into an incubator, and I was in the incubator for a month until my mom got to see me again and bring me home. But as soon as I got home, my grandmother took me straight to church, and I got prayed over. And as a kid, I was always in church, and I saw the pastor preaching, and I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. So I would try preaching in front of my family, and that's when they started to call me pastor. I just knew that was what I was going to do when I got older. But then I got into school and I struggled. Even though I was doing better than the doctors expected, I still struggled with reading and comprehending the things they were teaching me. So I was put into special education and speech classes from kindergarten to 3rd grade. Then they said my speech was good enough, and I got out of there. But I was still in special education from kindergarten all the way through middle school and high school. But when I was in middle school, that was when I really found out that I was different. I had a teacher sitting next to me in almost every class, helping me with my assignments and reading the test and quiz to me. At that time in middle school, I wasn't really paying attention to what other students were thinking about me and why I had a teacher sitting next to me, until one of the students came up to me and asked, "Why do you have that lady sitting next to you in my classes?" And that's when I started to feel ashamed of who I was and got really quiet. I didn't really talk to many people in 6th grade, and that's the year when I started to feel depressed because it felt like I couldn't fit in. I was different. So the next year I joined the middle school football team, and that's where I found I could fit in and made friends on the football team. But still in school I didn't feel confident enough to talk to people, and still couldn't find the right friends. Then I went to high school. It was like a fresh start, but things got way more difficult. I still had a teacher sitting next to me in my classes, and it was more embarrassing, and I got more depressed and sad. I remember one day just crying, asking God, why me? Why do I have to be put through this? And why does my brain have to be this way? But I really never got that answer to those questions until in 10th grade, when a whole pandemic came and shut the whole school down. At the time, I thought I was going to be out of school for a week or something. Then a week turned into a year. During that year, my life was on a roller coaster. I started to feel super lonely and trapped. So to take my mind off of my life, I started to talk to a lot of girls and get into a lot of pointless relationships just to take my mind off of how I was feeling and how there was nothing going on in my life and how depressed I was. Then I just found that wasn't working, and I went into Crystal and writing down what I wanted with gratitude, thinking that was going to change my life. I got into a lot of bad habits that weren't good for me and everything, but I just felt something wasn't right about it. But I still tried it for a couple months, but it still made me feel super guilty. Then I went to RT Youth Tribe nights, and one night I had an encounter with God as Pastor Max prayed for me. That moment just brought me back to God, and I just knew, I just prayed for forgiveness, and God welcomed me back in. I started to read my Bible again and got closer to God. And when I started reading my Bible, I was just amazed because everything I needed to hear was in there. I felt crazy for trying other ways to get out of my situation when the answer was right in front of me. But I'm glad I went through it all, because now I'm here speaking in front of you guys. Sometimes we think that our stories, our past, our loneliness, or lots of other things can get in the way of our gifts. We think that because of what we have done or who we are, we don't have a gift, or we lost it. But in reality, Paul was right. We all have a gift, a superpower. We all have a gift from God. And all you need to do is turn to Him.
Can we give it up for my man, the absolute superhero of the day, D'Angelo? What a story, and what proof today here in the chat that you, yes, you have a superpower, that you do have a purpose, that God did save you, and that He wants to use you. What an incredible reminder. But we still have 2 more points to get to, because D'Angelo told us that in order to be an everyday superhero, you have to realize that you already have a superpower. That's the first big step when we take a look at 1 Corinthians 12. Paul says everyone is in on it. No one is left out, not even you. Yes, that means you have a gift. But D'Angelo and I telling you that today might be a lot like the beginning of the Spider-Man movie. Now, I know there's a lot of Spider-Man movies, but I'm talking about the original one released back in 2002 with Tobey Maguire. If you haven't seen this movie, there's this scene where he just started to get his superpowers. He got bit by a spider, and he really doesn't know what's happening to him at all. What powers he has and what's happening to his body. All he knows is that his hands are all of a sudden sticky. He can see without his glasses. Some web came out of him during lunch at school, and he can apparently fight now and has like super awesome crazy reflexes. He ends up on a roof and he knows something's happening, and in a hilarious scene, he tries to cast web using a bunch of phrases to figure out his superpowers. If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, I encourage you to go watch it on YouTube. Go web, go! He's like making all of these different, it's hilarious. But it can feel like that when we tell you you have a superpower. Someone like D'Angelo or I can tell you, you have a gift, you have superpowers, and all you can feel like is what? You're like standing on the top of the roof like Spider-Man trying to magically pull together whatever you're supposed to be to make it work. I don't understand. And it can feel even not empowering. It can feel weakening almost. And this happens to adults too. Don't get it twisted. Even at a maybe advanced age, you can still feel like you've heard that you have gifts in church without ever understanding how in the world you're supposed to use them. That's why point number 2, put that in the chat. Point number 2, in order to become an everyday superhero, you have to learn about your superpowers from God. In our verse, it says God's various gifts are handed out everywhere, but they all originate in God's Spirit. God's various ministries are carried out everywhere, but they all originate in God's Spirit. God's various expressions of power are in action everywhere, but God Himself is behind it all. God is the originator. He's the one behind it all, the one who created them. In the verse, there are an infinite number of gifts. Let me tell you that. It says right there in the verse too, all kinds of things are handed out by the Spirit and to all kinds of people. The variety is wonderful. There are so many ways God made each of us so unique to reflect ways of His love. It's an incredible tapestry that we're all a part of. But if you don't go to Him, if you don't turn to His Word, it's like standing on that rooftop and just waving random signals until you expect your life to turn out successfully and with purpose. It's not going to work. We were made to glorify God. We were made to be everyday superheroes. We were made with these gifts, with these superpowers to bring God's kingdom here on earth. That's how we were designed. And yet we think that we can continue on in this life without consulting Him every single step of the way. He is the one that created you, created your gift, created this world, and charted out a plan for you. Everything is in Him. Every single thing. And whether you're young, old, or anywhere in between, you need to be reminded that you need to go to God about how to learn about your gift and how to use it. Instead of a Marvel movie, let me use a Bible example. One that comes to mind is Samson. Samson in Judges 13 through 16 was born with a special gift of incredible strength. His gift, his superpower was strength, and he was to use it for God's glory. It was tied to a Nazirite vow, a vow to be dedicated to God. Never touch a dead body, never drink wine, and never cut his hair. Those were the rules, but all of it was connected to God, and God had a plan for him. However, throughout the story, we see Samson get nearer and nearer to the edge of some of these rules that he had. We see him being reckless with his gift, using it for his own gain, and sometimes used to satisfy just himself. And most importantly, we don't see him going to God. Now, this is an omittance in the story, not necessarily a fact. But on and on, we see him tempted by the world and to use his gift, his superpower, to give God glory in the wrong way. And if you know the end of the story, he finally gives himself up. He gets captured, his hair gets cut, and afterwards he's tied together and he dies at the hands of the people he was tasked with getting rid of for God's glory. Man, learn from Samson, young and old and everywhere in between. Don't assume you know your gift well enough, even if you're an adult. Samson knew his gift and was still tempted and went off into a path he was never supposed to go. If you're a student, understand and learn from his mistake and go to God to learn how to use your gifts and talents and what they are. But no matter what, y'all, one of the biggest things that D'Angelo, myself, and the entire YK team wanted to get across to everyone today is why we called this message Everyday Superheroes. The title is actually based on a song called Everyday Superhero by Smash Mouth that came out in 2006. But we're not going to dwell on that reason because probably no one knows that song. The reason, the same as the song, is the word everyday. In order to become an everyday superhero, you need to use your superpowers. And that's point number 3 today. You need to use your superpowers. In 1 Corinthians, it says each person is given something to do to show who God is. Everyone gets in on it. Everyone benefits. Everyone benefits, Paul says. But this only happens if you use your gifts. From 2 years old to 200 years old, you need to use your superpowers. Marvel alone has made $25 billion in producing movies surrounding superheroes. From Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Groot, Thanos, Black Panther. No matter how you feel about Marvel movies, if you're all about them or not, you can agree that audiences around the globe seem to love them. Marvel movies have taken the center stage in the entertainment business. Now, how would those statistics work if every movie, nobody used their superpowers? Nobody used a single superpower. Not the Iron Man suit, not the super strength, no spidey senses, no elite battle scenes, nothing. I'm imagining that every single movie would bomb massively. That's not the reason they were created. They were created, even if they're fictional, they were created to use their superpowers. We were made to use our superpowers. That's what we were created for. The problem for most of us is that it feels like sometimes 95 to 99% of our days are doing things that don't seem to involve superpowers. Don't seem to involve things that are important, and we forget that we're created as superheroes. We go to mundane jobs. We wait in line at grocery stores. We focus on homework. We pick up the kids from sports. We play in those sports. We lose ourselves in social media. We watch Netflix. We work out. We get to the end of the day and not even thought hard about what we did that day. And all the while, our superpowers within us just laying dormant. Your superpower of a smile that lights up a room was needed by that cashier at the grocery store. Your superpower of patience was needed when your wife came home exasperated at the end of her day. Your superpower of making people feel like $1 million was needed at practice when that sophomore got yelled at by the coach. Your superpower of making people feel at home was needed by the uncle that stopped by for an hour before he had to go pick up his own kids. Your superpower of encouragement was needed on those posts made by your friend who is secretly really insecure. Your superpower of problem solving was needed when your mom and dad need to be encouraged and have a solution when all they're worried about is paying the next rent bill. Paul says everyone benefits. What is this world without your gift? We need it every day. Every one of us need it. You are a superhero, and we need you every day. That's why we need to be aware, even in the tasks that seem like they aren't superhero worthy. We're not necessarily in a Marvel movie. The task, the daily routine, the stuff that makes it seem like you don't have a superpower. And even if you do, it's only needed in the special occasions when someone randomly approaches you and asks them to explain Jesus to them. We often think our gifts are only for these special moments, for church, for retreats, or some other lie that the enemy tells you. Paul declared that we need your superpowers every single day. So just to recap, if you're a kid, youth, adult, anyone under the sound of my voice, listen carefully. You are an everyday superhero. How do I know? Paul tells us you already have a gift. You already have a superpower. And God is the only one that can reveal that to you and show you how to use it. And this world is not the same unless you use your superpowers. They're needed every single day. Man, thanks to Paul for showing us this, and I'm super thankful for you for already being a superhero. Thanks for being with us this YK Sunday. We cannot wait to see you at church for our church picnic that starts in, oh my goodness, it starts crazy soon. Come on and get here. Everything starts at noon. We're having food. We're having fun. We're having fellowship. You know what it is. Get here at noon for the church picnic. We can't wait to see you. Thanks for joining us for this YK Sunday.